Welcome back to the Sports Business Leaders Podcast. Today we're joined by Mark Goddard. Thanks for joining the show, Mark.
Thanks, Justin. Great to be here and appreciate your time and your audience as well.
Really looking forward to diving into the conversation today. Mark is a globally experienced sports technology executive, founder of Marcon Consulting, and former general manager of FIFA's transfer matching system. Mark has helped build and scale some of the most important platforms in global sport, operating at the intersection of technology, governance, and capital. His work brought structure and transparency to the international football transfer market and created one of the earliest examples of a SaaS platform operating at a true global scale in professional sports. Today, Mark advises founders, investors, and institutions on how to build durable sports businesses in complex, regulated environments and is now applying those lessons to the rapidly evolving college sports and NIL ecosystem. So, again, really appreciate you being on the show here, Mark. With all that said, would you mind telling the audience a bit more about your background and how you've ultimately ended up here?
Yeah, thanks, Justin, for the kind words. I'm a consultant, as you mentioned, and I specialize in sports governance. So I built FIFA's transfer company that moves tens of thousands of players and billions of dollars a year across the globe. So the main issues that we solved, and I still continue to solve, is what happens when money at scale impacts sports and the organizations that run them, and specifically around what it means for athlete exploitation and market distortions. And currently, I'm building a coalition of leaders that are looking at addressing, the professionalization of U.S. college sport for the first time in its 109-year history, 110, I guess now. And the aim is to do what we were faced with similar set of macro issues at FIFA. We want to build and look at transparent, effective, sustainable solutions that protect, in this case, the student athlete experience and public trust in college sport. It's part of society. I can't say enough about how many memories people have about their time at their college and university in the sports that they played. And so that's the big picture that we're looking at the moment. And how I got into this, it was something my dad said to me many years ago. I was in the backyard. He's a real estate agent, like many of my friends, and they had these big cars and these big houses, and we didn't. And one day I asked my dad, like, why is that? And he took a moment and he said, well, because I sleep well at night, Mark. Now, I had no idea at 16 what he was talking about. But if we fast forward 15 years, I'm at FIFA, I'm doing this project to effectively improve and bring transparency and good governance to the global transfer market. And it's after one of the world workshops in South America. The president of the country sports law association is sitting next to me and he leans over and he says, Mark, do you sleep well at night? And it clicked. I was like, oh, here we go. Now I get it.
Yeah.
This is massive business. There's huge amounts of interests. And I guess that's something that is important, especially for the sports side of things. How you win is as important as winning itself. And that's really why I gravitated towards what I'm doing. And my dad had a real impact on doing it the right way.
Yeah, there's a lot of golden nuggets there, Mark. And I think what you were talking about earlier, just it's hard to even fathom how much money flows within the whole ecosystem. You've had, obviously, as you talked about, tons of experience across the whole sporting industry. So from all of that experience and what you've done in the industry, what have you seen that separates startups that become real infrastructure in whatever it is that they're doing from those that remain interesting products, but maybe never really scale the way they intended to?
Yeah, I think it's a good framing device, Justin. Just as an aside, FIFA dropped its transfer market report for 2025, 13.08 billion US dollars in transfer fees for the calendar year 2025. So massive, massive business. To your question, I think the main thing between a product and service and infrastructure is what I saw building the transfer matching system for FIFA. Infrastructure is something that everyone needs to use, and it has the effect of coordinating and forcing collaboration from stakeholders that wouldn't normally want to or need to collaborate. And that's infrastructure. the difference between, so, in the context of TMS, everyone has to use it. The leagues have to use it, the clubs have to use it, the agents have to have their commissions reported into it. The football associations, they all have to use it. That's infrastructure. A product or a service is usually something that solves a problem for one of the stakeholders in the ecosystem. And I think that's the difference between, you know, what can scale significantly to reach the numbers that I mentioned. TMS now moves hundreds of thousands of players across the globe and is tracking tens of billions of dollars a year. And that's because everyone has to use it now, and everyone's happy to use it because of the way we set it up. A product or service will solve a problem for a club, but not a league, or a product will help amateur or youth sport, but won't help the professional side of the game. So that, I think, is the big distinction to what you've asked for there.
You have to create something that integrates into an already existing workflow that doesn't add time, doesn't add friction, and makes it easier for whatever it is that somebody's doing. And that's what you created with the FIFA matching system. When you were building FIFA's transfer matching system, what other entrepreneurial lessons did you learn about selling change to powerful incumbents that are maybe used to doing things a certain way already?
I think the main thing is, and it doesn't necessarily reflect well, but the powerful incumbents of a system that's going to be changed are generally not that interested in the change. They have the largest budgets, they've been able to solve the problems, and they're the apex predators in the market. The big clubs were not particularly interested in a solution that was going to, provide a different way of working. Whether they agreed or not that it was better or not, they were just very resistant because they'd solved the problems and were comfortable with how things were going. And obviously, that's a very convenient position to be if you're at the top of the pyramid. So the lesson we had was you come down one level from the powerful incumbents and you look at stakeholders that are more constrained. They don't have these big budgets. They are looking for ways to disrupt and do things better. And you have a much better a chance of, establishing the value proposition, which we had done for the transfer matching system. We were like, this is good for you. This is going to help you do your business. This is going to make things standardized. No matter where you do a deal in the world, it's the same rules. It's also the same team that's going to support you if there's any issues. And
Yeah.
I think once you've established the value with that part of the ecosystem, you can go back to the incumbents, the big ones at the top of these pyramids, and say, hey, this is what's happening. It's quicker, it's faster, it's standardized, and you earn the right to go back to the incumbents and go, listen, it was theory before when we came to you, and now it's practice. And the clinical example that we had was we were able to say, you can do a deal inside 7 minutes. And they were like, 7 minutes? Like, yeah, 7 minutes. If you get yourself organized, you can have all elements that you want done, dusted, and cleared in 7 minutes. And that was, unheard of. And that's when the big incumbents kind of s- you stopped what they were doing and concentrated and said, okay, now are you sure? And you can say, yeah, this is now a reputational issue. It's not usually about making money for them. So you
Yeah.
get them on other topics.
Yeah, and how long would that have taken, Mark, before you integrated the new system?
Oh, we did it in 3 years, globally. So when I look at, the challenges facing the professionalization of US college sport, it's not a dissimilar amount of stakeholders, but we went kind of too fast. Um, I'm a technologist in many respects. We played a game that we lost, which was the technical debt game. I don't want to bore your audience with what that means, but bottom line is we went a bit too fast. We took too many shortcuts in order to go as quickly as we could, but we needed to. So there was trade-offs, which I think is a much better way to look at a lot of the choices that you make in life and in business. There's pros and cons to everything. There's very rarely a silver bullet that's just great all round.
Yeah.
So we were able to do it in 3 years and get it up and running. That's for sure.
Yeah, gotcha. And I know you had mentioned that a deal specifically would take 7 or 8 minutes. What
Mm.
would a deal take how long would a deal take to complete without your system?
Well, I'll give you an example. Just by mapping out the characteristics and the technology sets. So we built an online, real time, 24/7, 365 days a year system, following the sun all the way around the world. And they were using fax machines, phone calls, and courier services to do the same thing. So that's technology in a nutshell. What took weeks now took 7 minutes. And because it was running on a platform, we could timestamp the first login to, there was a thing called an international transfer certificate, an ITC that still exists, but they were issued now through the platform. And so everything's happening in real time. And as fast as you can type and fill in information, deal's done. Players moved, eligible to play on the field, which was shocking relative to the decades of how things worked before.
And what time frame was this exactly?
Yeah, so we founded in January 1st, 2008. The first time I came across an image rights contract was in June 2008. Just to give you some context of what's happening in America now with NIL, which I think is the upgraded version. Um, so this we were able to, once we had enough clubs on the platform and we were in this transition phase and we trained them all. We were middle of 2009 in our test phase and transition phase, and I remember it was a deal going into Scotland, I think from France. And I said, I wanna measure the fastest successfully completed transfer in this test summer transfer window. And the tech guys came back with the timestamps and said, "Listen, 7 minutes." So this is June 2009.
Wow. Just thinking about all the change in technology around that time frame
Yeah,
in the late early 2000 timeframe, early 2010s. It's
yeah,
incredible. Commend you for what you were able to do because that's
yeah,
you saved a lot of time and headache for a lot of
yeah.
people.
Well, that was the thing. One of the main pushbacks was, "Oh, this is all new work. We have to do this on top of everything we're doing." And I was like, "Yes, but that's only in the transition. This is going to make your life way, way easier."
Yeah.
But, humans are not particularly good at change. It's not our forte. Uh, and then, at the end there, we were about to go live and there was still some pushback at the top of FIFA and the executive committee. And I remember my boss at the time said, "Mark, we're really getting some pushback from some of the executive committee to make it compulsory." And I said, "Get whoever is pushing back to call the number one club in their country and ask if they should turn TMS off. Do it live." And he was like, "You sure?" I said, "I guarantee you, I don't care where they are on the planet, this stuff is way better than the way it was done before."
Mhm.
And lo and behold, I don't want to divulge the details. That executive committee member, whichever country they were from, called one of their preeminent clubs. And basically, the answer was, "Are you out of your goddamn mind? This is the best thing that's happened in our entire life. And FIFA's doing it for us," which was just bonkers to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mark, it reminds me about the story of the origin of Huddle, the sports video company,
Yeah.
where back in the day, coaches would have to meet up halfway between the schools to share film, and then when Huddle came around the same time, it seems like in the 2000s, it saved coaches hours and probably days off of their careers.
Yeah, time is the most precious commodity. As you get older, that becomes way more apparent because you can't get it back. And if you can save people time, you have a problem solving machine. And yeah, that was it. 7 minutes.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I guess that was the final proof point at the very last minute, at the 11th hour, because we needed to have a vote to get it into the regulations as the compulsory infrastructure for global transfers worldwide. Yeah, I was so confident in it. Was a colorful language. I'll divulge it was in Spanish, And my boss laughed as he said, the direct translation in real time in the executive committee is a lot of swearing and hell no. I was like, okay, great. So vote for it. And I was like, yep.
Yeah, this is so cool. And that's a great transition, Mark, to the next question. Thinking about it from the other side of things as an entrepreneur, not necessarily for the customer, but
Mm.
where do sports entrepreneurs often misallocate their time and money early on when they're first starting their business?
Yeah, great question. And it's become patently obvious to me over my years. You'll never get anywhere by yourself. Well, you only go so far, I guess. So you'll be working with other people, and it becomes the most important thing you can do is as you start getting successful and as you start scaling, it's still people. It doesn't matter how many LLMs and AIs you're going to use, it's still going to be a people business, hopefully to some extent. But that's where I think it's something that startups and founders and scale ups, they think it's not that important. And boy, it really is. You've got to make sure you've got the right people in the right roles with the same mindset so that you can all be pulling in the same direction. And that is the most important allocation of time and resources, especially on success, because that's when you need to build your team. You know, in just like sport, what you can accomplish. You can have a star player, but the rest of the team is not good, and yeah, it's not going to perform as well as it can.
Really appreciate all this. Thank you very much for sharing about all the lessons. Every single time I talk to you, I learn more about what your background entailed and some of the lessons you learned. So
Yeah.
to round out the conversation here, Mark, any last words you want to share with the audience of sports business leaders?
Yeah, I think the main fundamentals are, try and pick something you're interested in so that you enjoy part of what you're doing, and then get good at it. So, you know, the Michael Jordan phrase is apt here. You'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And my counter is, yeah, but if Mr. Jordan hit 0 free throws out of 1,000, someone probably would tell him, "You basketball's not your thing, mate." So you need to balance the what I'm interested in and get good at it, and then solve a problem like the time. If you can solve and make things faster or take less time, that's, I think, the secret sauce to sports business and technology, and to be frank, all business across the board. So, there's a bit of theoretical and a bit of practical, pragmatic element here. I'm Australian. I love sport. Uh, Technology was a hobby. I'm a gamer. I would never admit that, but I can now because it's a little less socially ostracizing. But I just love technology. I just loved it when I was a young boy, and I gravitated towards it. Um, and that's how it worked out. And then I got the chance to solve a massive problem at a global scale, and it was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, Mark. And I didn't know that you said you were Australian earlier. I didn't know that
Yeah,
originally. Wow.
yeah, Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I ended up in sport. Sydney Olympics in the 2000s is where I met FIFA, uh, and my job was to look after FIFA and IBM. So there was the sport technology combination, and that's how it started.
Wow.
That's how it. Crazy story. The event manager walked in with a steel briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. This is 2000. Okay, so context. And I said to my counterpart, I said, "What the hell? Who's that? And what the hell is that?" Because that's the event manager, and it's $1 million in cash strapped to his wrist. I was like, "Wow, okay, where's that going? Straight into the safe that you got installed on the second floor." Uh huh.
Wow. What a story. Thank you again, Mark. How can the audience follow along with you and stay in touch?
So it's LinkedIn. It's all LinkedIn. That's the only social media platform that I'm prepared to exchange my dopamine for. So if you're addicted, get onto that one. I'm Mark Goddard, and you should be able to find me if you put in FIFA or TMS or sport of some description. So yeah, that's the way to
Great.
find me.
Mark, really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks again, and best of luck and excited to follow along.
Yeah, excellent, Justin. Thanks again.